What's up for OddsChecker? We are bringing you another episode of our college football show. We are down to the wire here. I am joined with Joe and Alex. Guys, how are you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good, Melissa. Joe, good to be with you. Pick some Army Navy. Talk a little bit about the postseason. Can't wait.
I'm like a little upset. We're almost done here with our season. It's been a wild turn. Alex, you've been killing it lately.
Well, I've had a strong year here, but last week was not my best. I was 1-2 on conference championship weekend. That was my first sub 500 week in a while, and I missed on the pick of the week. So I'm at 32-20 on the year, 6-9 on my picks of the week though. So would like to do better on picks of the week. But postseason is time to protect your profit margin if you've got it. Get into the profit zone if you're not. So lots of good work still to be done.
And Joe, how have you been doing?
I've been doing pretty good this season. My show picks have kind of been up and down. Usually week to week, it's like I go 3-0, 2-1, and the next week 1-2 or 0-3. But overall, it's been a good season for me. So I'm looking forward to capping these bowl games, and I'm looking forward to talking about this Army-Navy game.
Wow. Before we cap the bowl games, we just got our college football playoff rankings in. We've got Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and Ohio State. And it's crazy that TCU's in the game. I just want to say in the game. In the playoffs. I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm a huge TCU fan. But let's talk about that for a second. After winning their first SEC championship since 2017, Georgia Bulldogs are at the top at number 1. Georgia is 13-0 this season and it's the first time in program history, which is wild. They lead the 4 teams, and they're going to look to defend their back-to-back championship. With that being said, Michigan also sits at 13-0 for the first time as the only other undefeated Power 5 program this season, and they're going to return to the playoffs in number 2. The Horned Frogs are just the second Big 12 team to ever reach this point in the postseason, which is wild. Huge fan here. And it is the first time they've been here since 9 years, if I'm not mistaken. They're also the second team to advance to the playoffs after starting the season unranked in the AP Top 25. Guys, we've got a lot of picks here. I'm going to start with Joe. I know you have something for us with these playoff rankings.
Yeah, well, as a Michigan fan, I'm extremely happy with how the playoff turned out. I really thought the committee was going to put Ohio State at 3 and force a Michigan-Ohio State rematch in the first semifinal game. I'm very glad they didn't do that. I think TCU deserved their number 3 ranking. But with that said, I do think Ohio State has some value on a future line here, as much as that sickens me to say, because I'm a diehard fan.
I'm sorry that you had to admit that on screen.
I think Ohio State does have some value. They are a talented team. I don't think they're as good as everyone thinks they are. They really haven't been that impressive on a week-to-week basis, even with a weak schedule. They got blown out by Michigan. And it wasn't really too much of a blowout until the fourth quarter. Ohio State almost quit a little bit late in that game. They gave up huge chunk plays. If you just looked at the box score of that game, you would have thought it was a lot closer than the final score indicated based on some huge chunk plays. And Ohio State just has the pedigree. I don't think they're going to be nervous or anxious for this game. You know, they have been here before. These guys are used to winning. This is a tough matchup for Georgia, similar to how Michigan got a tough matchup last year in the playoff with Georgia. But I think Ohio State has a lot of value here. It's the shorter line of these two games at 6.5-7 compared to a 9.5-10 matchup for Michigan TCU. And so I think Ohio State has a little bit of value on a national championship future.
Okay, so let's go back to the TCU-Michigan matchup really quickly here. Who you got in this game?
Oh, well, I think Michigan's going to win, actually.
Do you think TCU will cover? That's my question, because that's what I'm on.
I need to wait and see on that.
If I'm picking TCU to cover, I'm basically saying I think it's going to be a toss-up game. I don't think it's going to be a game where Michigan's up like 14 and TCU covers like in the last second on a touchdown. I don't see it being like that. I think if TCU is going to cover, it's going to be a close game throughout. and I'm not sure I see that. So I would kind of lean to Michigan minus 9.5. I think Michigan is going to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Michigan has won with margin in a lot of games this season. TCU plays a lot of close games, and I just don't see TCU being able to do enough against this defense.
You're breaking my heart here, Joe. I already put in the bet. Alex, please tell me you're not going to break my heart too.
I like to wait a little bit, see what the medical situations are like in playoff games rather than go futures, though I respect those who do. First glance, I would lean Michigan as well.
No, you guys.
But
I thought we were friends. We spent a whole season together.
We will be back as the postseason gets on. We've got about a month before this game, so plenty of time to reassess things, see what things are looking like.
All right. Well, with that being said, I know we got a lot of under picks coming, and life is not too short to bet the under. So let's just get straight into it. The Army Black Knights and the Navy Midshipmen. By the way, I love midshipmen. That's very interesting. They're going to meet at MetLife. They're meeting right where I live. Should I go?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I've been to some Army Navy games. It's a fun atmosphere. I think it's a college football bucket list experience to get to at least one of those if you can.
All the fans
it'll probably be cheaper than a Giants game, so
maybe not. It's a tough ticket. You'll be surprised. It's a tough ticket, but it should be because there's a lot of pageantry and it's two teams who don't like each other, even as they have sort of this mutual respect. And the game is always close because nobody can score, which we can talk about.
You guys keep breaking my heart here, but let me throw out some fun facts before you get into your picks. This is the 122nd meeting between these two teams, and it will be the first time they've ever met together at MetLife Stadium. Currently, Navy leads the all-time series with 61 wins to the Army's 53, and there are 7 tied scores. Now, I don't really know too much about tied scores because the Giants just tied for the first time. That's really the only team I care about since 1997. Did you guys bet on them? Because they did cover. They just tied, and it was unfortunate.
Hey, we'll take it.
How did the Steelers do, Alex? How did the Steelers do?
The Steelers won the other day. Yeah, it's an increasingly rare sight, but maybe they're getting it together.
I hope so for your sake. But with that being said, Navy comes into the new venue. They're on an advantage. They played at MetLife before. They met with Notre Dame back in 2010, and they actually won that game 35-17. Navy also tops Army in 3 of the last 4 Army-Navy games held in East Rutherford, New Jersey. But this was at the old Giants Stadium. So I'm not wrong here. It's just like at the old stadium. It was way before I was born a couple games, 1989, 1997, 2002. Did you guys ever check out those games?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Good. So then it's way before any of us cared. With that being said, I'm going to toss it over to Alex. You've got some under picks for us. So does Joe. But Alex, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll surprise anybody if you've listened to us over the course of the season that we like the under. I think we're both probably going to like the under here. It's at 33.5 at last check. It's going to move around. Obviously, use OddsChecker, figure out the best place to get the best number, the highest number that you can to go below it. But when Army and Navy play each other, and this is also true when either of these teams plays against Air Force, the defense tends to have a pretty decided advantage. Since 2007, that's an arbitrary year that I'm picking because that's when both Air Force and Navy got new coaches. So it was sort of a new era, if you will, in this rivalry. The over, or I actually would say the under in this game, is 38-7-2. Unders are in these games, and nearly 16 years worth of Service Academy games. Every single time, the computer systems will say that there should be more points scored, and they set the totals lower and lower, and they just cannot set them low enough. There are no guarantees in sports betting. We all know this. A lock isn't really a lock. We don't know anything for sure. Sometimes, sure, an over is going to hit in this game, and people will say, I told you so. It was due to happen, whatever. But let's be clear about it. This is one of the most reliably on-time trains in all of sports wagering. It's good process to bet the under in an Army-Navy game. It hits with astonishing frequency, about 4 out of every 5 times. Over has not hit in a Service Academy game since 2019. And these coaches, if you talk to them, will tell you why. They are used to seeing the triple option in practice every day. They understand it. They know it well. They know how to stop it. And there just aren't a lot of points in these games. Someday, don't get me wrong, there will be an over that will hit again in a Service Academy game. But I am certainly not betting on that happening this weekend. Give me the under no matter what it moves to.
Well, I hope that when it is someday, we do end up betting the over on that week. But what was that number? It was 38-7-2, if I'm not mistaken.
Since 2007. I mean, it's shocking. It's about
wild.
80% of the time. Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely insane.
It's really something. And I think there is this reason for it, though. And it's the familiarity that these teams have with each other.
Joe, you're also betting a couple unders for this game. What do you have for us?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Alex just said. I think there are going to be some people out there who try to get cute and try to bet the over and, try to be sharp per se. But I think with the number this low, I think the sharp play is almost taking the under. I mean, you have to bet with what Vegas is giving you. It's almost like trying to catch a falling knife. If you're trying to bet the over on these games, you almost just have to bet with it as a trend that is that sustained. And it just makes sense. Some trends you see don't make sense. They don't hold water. In these games, they run the ball every single play. The clock is continuously moving. And there's also just an intensity with this rivalry in these Service Academy games and an intensity that you do not see from a lot of other matchups in Power 5 or games like that. So I think this game is going to be very close. Both of these teams are having down seasons, but I love the under in this matchup. It's just kind of an auto bet for me at this point in a Service Academy game to bet the under. It's a little lower than years past at 33.5. I'm probably going to bet the first half under and the full game under here. And I also have a slight lean to Army in this game, but under is my favorite pick, and I'm definitely going to be betting the under.
So tell us about that lean for Army. Like, what's your take? What's your situation here with that you're picking that pick?
I just think Army is slightly better on the offensive end. I don't think they turn the ball over nearly as much as Navy. Navy has also done very well as like large underdogs. We saw them play very well against UCF. We saw them play very well against Notre Dame.
I'm really upset about that UCF game, so I'm annoyed you brought it up.
That was a tough game for UCF. Navy played really well, but I think the role that they play in that game is an underdog where no one is giving them a shot. I think that's where they play better compared to a line like this where it's at a pick 'em or -1, where a lot of people expect them to win. It's just a different team dynamic. And I just think Navy has done much better in the big underdog role compared to this role where they're somewhat expected to win on most lines. So I think Army is the better play on the side here.
All right. Well, Alex, what's your take on this? I know you didn't pick between Army and Navy, but if you had to pick, what would you pick?
No. I in fact, I will put a pick in on this.
I
think we might have even, I was realizing this, we might have had an issue with Apple with my text messages coming through on this. I do like Army on the side of this game. And it's funny, when I texted you about this, I said Army at -1 at basically a pick 'em in the last 24 hours. You can really get this at a pick 'em at a number of different places. I like the Army lean as well. The Army-Navy game is sort of interesting from a betting perspective because it's always on a neutral field. There is relatively little noise, I think, that gets into this game because of the systematic way that these teams both play. Even if there's an injury or two, even at an important position, there are a lot of opportunities still to just kind of look at these teams and think what you see is what you get. You're not going to get a huge shocker in Army-Navy. And I just think that Army is a little better than Navy this year, particularly better at preventing these occasional really busted run plays that go for a long distance. I think Army will probably find a few of those in this game. And so I do at a pick 'em on a neutral field, just feel like I'm going to take the better team by a small margin, and that's Army.
Well, guys, I hope you shop the odds. And if you're interested in OddsChecker, that's literally what we do here. We shop the odds. You just log into our website. You can see every single book and what every single book is doing for this game. So get your best price. And the only way to do that is with our website. But with that being said, we will be here for all of the playoff action, all of the Army-Navy game, all the time. We're always here. I don't know where we're going. But we will see you guys next week for another college football episode. We're almost done here. I'm kind of sad about it. It is what it is. We'll figure something else out to do. We'll do college basketball or something
Absolutely.
like that.
Yeah, something.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I'm your host, Melissa, and I am joined by the sharpest college football bros. They have been killing it this season. Make sure you keep checking us out. I'm with Joe, I'm with Alex, and we will see you guys next week, Tuesday.